What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and I'm here today to give you my professional gaming opinion on Citizen Sleeper. Citizen Sleeper is an odd beast, a very narratively driven resource management game with strong tabletop RPG influences. And if you follow my reviews regularly, the first really juicy game I've sunk my teeth into for a hot moment. I dig me a good story, I really do, and this is right up there with some of the Inkle games. You take on the role of a sleeper, a kind of late capitalism-born dystopian figure, the mind of a human implanted in a cyborg to evade anti-AI laws. Except you ran away, escaped to a space station on the fringes of society. Your body's failing you, your body's owners would also really like it back, and the whole station is a tangled web of factional intrigue. Everything in the game is based on cycles, a cycle being roughly analogous to a day. Each cycle, you'll get given 1 to 5 dice depending on your body's condition, each rolled to a random number that will let you attempt to do various things. The healthier you are, the more stuff you can do in a day. You'll lose 1 bar of condition every cycle, so the longer you go without repairing, the harder you'll find it to get things done. You also have energy, which you can replenish by eating, and if you let that drop to 0, you'll lose condition faster. The dice you can drag into slots to attempt to complete various tasks you've found. The value of the dice determines how likely it is for something to go well. A 1 or a 2 gives you a 50-50 chance for either a standard or a bad result. A 3 or a 4 gives you a chance for things to go well, but also badly. A 5 is 50-50 between neutral and good outcomes, and a 6 is guaranteed to go well. Every task falls into one of 5 skill categories: Engineer, which is obviously machine stuff; Interface, which is stuff like hacking; Endure, which is basically any physical task; Intuit, which is more logical stuff; and Engage, which they sort of hand-wavingly vaguely describe as approaching problems head-on, whatever that means. To me, it sounds physical again, but in practice seems to apply more to social stuff. And your skill points in these categories can act as dice value bonuses or penalties, as well as adding perks associated with doing those kind of jobs. So for example, early on you can do jobs for Dragos, the first person you meet, salvaging spaceships. If you're good at engineering, you can work on hull dissection. But if you're more physical, manual salvage might be better suited. Once he lets you go, you can use dice to explore new areas of the station, opening up new points of interest and new characters to talk to with new jobs to do. The jobs then also fall into 3 difficulties. Easy jobs have no real penalty for messing up, you just won't get as much of a reward. Risky jobs mean something's on the line if you fail, be that money, energy, condition, or something else. Dangerous jobs have something to lose even with a neutral outcome, and significant penalties for failing them, so you'll end up saving your 6s for those. A lot of these jobs will also be tied to various meters the game calls clocks. Some you'll fill in by working the task in question, some will tick away regardless, filling in 1 segment per cycle. A little plus or minus in the middle tells you if it's a good or a bad thing. By and large, the way it plays out is that you'll want to try and fill up the clocks with a plus before the ones with a minus trigger over time. Sometimes the negative ones will fill up by getting bad outcomes from your dice, forcing you to be careful in your choices, and sometimes a positive one might simply be on a timer to allow the story to elapse at its own pace. These clocks also drive a lot of the major plot devices. Something big is going to go down in 8 cycles, and it would really be in your interest to finish up some of the story branches by then, or you're in trouble. Combined with keeping your robot frame up and running, it all meshes together nicely, such that you always feel like you have stuff to do. I mentioned hacking in the skills, which is handled slightly differently to the other jobs, with it asking you to input a very specific dice number in order to access various systems. Although, often in practice, what that means is using up your low-value dice at the end of each day to steal data to sell, rather than plugging your 1 and 2 dice rolls into the mission to delicately disassemble a catastrophically fragile space hulk and bringing it all down around you. I'm not sure if I love this system when it really boils down to a way to turn your bad dice into cash, the upshot of which is that you never feel particularly compelled to use those suboptimal dice in more important jobs, which might have created a little more tension when it came to the big story critical stuff. Whilst I grant you it's a primarily narrative game and maybe shouldn't be expecting major challenges, I found myself acing every hurdle thrown at me simply by waiting for good dice to get all the jobs done, and liquidating the bad ones to buy the resources I needed to get by. Nothing bad ever happened to me, at least not by my own actions. My sleeper had a jolly old time here in the dysfunctional wreckage of capitalism. Everyone was lovely and everything went well, and I got rich and self-sufficient by being amazing at everything. I will not say this of a great many games, but I would be genuinely interested in a hard mode to add at least a touch of peril to things. As far as story branches go, there are plenty of them, and exploration will almost without fail unveil more new characters with their own. There's the worker and his daughter you meet building a spaceship, and you can help them in a tale familiar to most of us of chasing their dreams while being stepped on by the boot of capitalism. There's a cybersecurity expert who can help you disable your corporation tracker if you work with him to bring down corrupt executives, exploring the power dynamics that govern this society despite its founders' best efforts. There's an AI living in a vending machine being hunted by systems that would eliminate both it and you, and together you can fight back and explore the nature of AI and sentience along the way. Special shout out to the doctor you meet, Sabine, who's non-binary, but it's handled in that fun sci-fi way where it's the future and it's normal, so no one gives a shit or wants to check your genitals before you use the bathroom. All the story branches you find will unlock new drives, which is basically what the game calls missions, objectives. Some of the longer stories might get broken into a couple of different drives, but the upshot of them is that every drive you complete will earn you a skill point to gain perks or further massage your dice rolls, which, yep, makes the game easier. As a narrative piece, it reminds me a lot of the kind of things Inkle used to make, like 80 Days or Heaven's Vault. A deep, compelling, decidedly non-linear story that you can just kind of immerse yourself in at your own pace. It's a world where you just want to soak up the ambience, to meet more people and learn more about it. There's the gentle nudge of ticking clocks pushing you inexorably towards a conclusion, but there still never feels much pressure to do things anything other than the way you want. There's a couple of different ways to circumvent the big looming threat, not least of which is by simply fleeing the station forever, and then there's multiple options to go down that route. By my reckoning, and from looking at the Steam achievements, there's 8 different endings attached to 3 major story arcs. There's no necessity to pursue all of them, or even necessarily any of them if you're a bit weird and want to play the story game for everything but the story, but obviously you'll want to. Which is in and of itself a bit of a problem, because I kept finding myself turning down opportunities to see an interesting ending in favour of staying on the station to keep doing stories. A polite request to the dev. Can we have the functionality to easily copy game saves? I managed to do so by tinkering in the app data folder just for the purpose of watching an ending but being able to carry on playing afterwards, but most people probably won't do that, and it would be nice to stick your finger in the page of the choose your own adventure, as it were. Even if the mechanics don't necessarily lend themselves well to challenging gameplay, I still found them unique enough to be interesting. And narratively speaking, Citizen Sleeper has been living rent-free in my head for the past week, and I'll be thinking about it for quite a while longer, I'm sure. I know we're not even halfway through 2022 yet, but I feel like it's a very strong contender for Game of the Year. Citizen Sleeper is out now on PC, Switch and Xbox for $18, your regional equivalent, and in my professional gaming opinion, is highly recommended.